Happy Wednesday, everybody. So, as I've been doing these devotionals and kind of just trying to pick verses to talk about, I've been asking people, my wife, my daughter, Josh, our custodian, for a favorite verse or verse that's been on their mind. So, this week I asked our office administrator, Lori Swanson, for a verse or a favorite verse, and she said these are her life verses. These are familiar verses, I think, to a lot of us, and really I'm glad she picked them. So I'm going to talk about Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 today, and I hope to come back to it next week. So we'll do this in two sessions. So Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. The first thing is kind of figuring out how we're going to organize ourselves and kind of tackle this first. I said we're going to do it in 2 weeks, and you look at it, and I hope it occurs to you that really what we have here are three things that we're told to do, and then a promise at the end. So trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. So we could do this in 3 weeks, could do a 3-point sermon, but as I've looked at it and as I've prayed over it the last couple of days, I've really decided instead of this saying three things, I really think this verse says one thing. It has one big idea with one major promise, and then there are kind of two explanations. At least that's the way I'm going to tackle it. So the one big thing, we've got it in red here, trust in the Lord with all your heart. This is what this proverb, these two verses are calling us to do. Trust in the Lord. And then the promise is here at the end, and he will make your path straight. And if we wanted, I think we could just read the verse like that. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and he will make your path straight. That's what we're being called to do. It's the two lines in the middle that help us understand what it means to trust in the Lord. At least that's the way I'm going to tackle it. So this week, we're going to look at the two parts, the two edges, and the next week we'll come back and we'll look at the two lines in the middle. So I want to start with the promise. I want to start with the reward. Here's the incentive. Why should we do this thing that this proverb is calling us for? And it's because it'll make our paths straight. I think this image, the language here is actually fairly common in the Bible, and I'm guessing instinctively we kind of have a sense of what this means. If your path is straight, one of the things that means is it's an easier path. It's a successful path. I think if a road is straight, think about a culture where everybody has to walk. Think about a culture in Palestine where there are lots of hills and sometimes cliffs and craggy mountains, and so they probably have to deal with a lot of crooked paths. And most of those crooked paths, they're crooked because they're going around some obstacle, or they're going down into some ravine, or they're going up over some hill or some mountain. And so crooked paths are probably harder to travel. A straight path means you're on flat ground, there's nothing in your way, there are no obstacles. And so if you do a lot of walking, the straight path is preferable. So that's part of what's going on here is, hey, this verse is saying if you do this, then life is going to be easier for you. You're going to walk a straight path. The other way that language is used in the Bible is the way of the crooked. The crooked path is often used as a way to describe those who are wicked or perverse. And so if you're walking a crooked path, then biblically speaking, that means you're walking the wrong path. You're on the wrong road, that you're doing things wrong. Evil. And so one of the ways I think that we sometimes read this verse is not always as three things, but sometimes we'll read this verse as four things. Like this line is, hey, walk a straight path. We'll say, keep it on the straight and narrow, right? As you go through life, you got to make sure that you are doing things the right way, that you're walking a straight path. And really, I think that's part of the overall message of this passage to us, and certainly that's a vibe that's in the Bible. You can find that said elsewhere in the Bible, but the thing I want you to really notice and hone in here on is this isn't an instruction to us. This last line is not an instruction to us, hey, walk a straight narrow path. It is a promise. Notice it's he will make. The Lord will make your paths straight. There's a promise here. The one big thing we're being called to do is trust in the Lord, and he will make your path straight. So he will help to create a straight path in front of you, or he will help you to walk on that road that you're supposed to walk. So I think of this verse, we'll throw it up here in a moment, but I think of this verse, the image of this verse almost like a map. Like, this is where we want to get, right? This is what we want in life. We want a straight path. This is what you should want. You should want your paths to be straight. And the promise is the Lord will help us get there. Some of you have this verse memorized, sort of the King James language. It's an alternate reading. It's a footnote reading in the New International Version. And that gets the promise idea across even better, because it'll say, if you do these things, then He will direct your paths, right? So the Lord will be directing you as to where you should go. He's going to help you get, not always necessarily where we want to go, but where we need to go. That's the promise of this verse. So how do we do that? How do we get that the Lord directs our path? Well, that's the one big thing, right? That's the main idea of this verse. You need to trust in the Lord. The whole idea here is that we need to put our trust in God. And so I've got two illustrations for what this means to trust in the Lord. The two really actually very different illustrations, but one I've already alluded to is that idea of a map, right? And having this discussion at lunch today with the staff is, how many of us read maps anymore? Right? I can remember when I was going to go someplace, I can still remember getting out a paper map and opening it up and figuring out where I was going, where I was starting, and the roads I would have to follow to get there. And then, the computer came along, and then you'd get something like this, where you'd look it up before you'd get in the car, and sometimes I'd even print out the instructions, and so I would look at the map. I'd study there are multiple routes. You try to pick the best route and make a strategy for how you're going to get where you're going. And of course today, and I think this is really an illustration of the passage in Proverbs 3, is we don't look at maps anymore, right? We look at this thing. And frankly, I don't even look at this thing. I get my phone out, I tell it where I want to go. It opens up, and there's a map function on there I can look at, but I just push that directions button, set my phone down, and start driving. And she just starts talking to me. She's, turn right here, turn left here, drive for another 5 miles. And I haven't lost the ability to read a map, but I just don't read maps as much anymore. I just kind of, it's sort of this adventure. I'm out there on the roads, and I'm just going wherever my phone tells me to go, and I'm not even clear where I'm going. I remember once my family and we were driving back up from St. Louis, and we were going to go to the Mark Twain Caves in Joplin, Missouri, and we told our phone to find it and get us there. And I'm guessing there's a major road that runs, not Joplin, Hannibal, Missouri. There's a major road that runs through Hannibal, and there's probably a sign somewhere that says go this way to the Mark Twain Cave, and it's a pretty major street. That's what you do. But my phone decided there was a faster way. And so before I ever got into Hannibal, suddenly I was out there in the hills. And then I'm kind of going through these neighborhoods that, quite honestly, we're kind of sketchy looking, right? I'm waiting for the hillbilly music to start playing, and you're like, I'm not sure where I'm going. I don't know where I am, but I'm going to trust in the directions my phone is giving me. And sure enough, straight paths, correct paths. She directed my paths. I got where I'm going. And so, in a lot of ways, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is saying, hey, trust in the Lord. He's your GPS. If you trust in Him, you listen to Him, if you go where He's telling you to go, He's going to send you on the right path. So that's one illustration. Here's a different one, completely different, but I really love this. I found this as I was studying this verse. Author and theologian Henry Nouwen became fascinated in the last years of his life with a group of trapeze artists called the Flying Rodleys. There's something about their courage, soaring, trusting, their dependence on one another that inspired him, like a parable of our relationship to God. He got to know some of them, including the leader, and he wrote about what he learned from them. He said he learned from them that the flyers must completely trust the catchers. The leader said to him on one occasion, as a flyer, I must have complete trust in my catcher. The public might think I'm the great star of the trapeze, but the real star is Joe, my catcher, because he has to be there with me with split-second precision, and he's got to grab me out of the air as I come to him in the long jump. And the secret is that the flyer does nothing, and the catcher does everything. When I fly to Joe, I have simply to stretch out my arms and hands and wait for him to catch me and pull me safely over the apron behind the catch bar. And now I remember saying, nothing? Nothing, Rodley would repeat. The worst thing the flyer can do is try to catch the catcher. I'm not supposed to catch Joe. It's Joe's task to catch me. If I grab Joe's wrist, I might break them or he might break mine, and that would be the end of it for both of us. A flyer must fly and a catcher must catch, and the flyer must trust with outstretched arms that his catcher will be there for him. And these are the words that haunted Henry Nouwen. The flyer does nothing, the catcher does everything, and the flyer must trust with outstretched arms that his catcher will be there for him. When Rodley said this with so much conviction, the words of Jesus on the cross flashed through my mind. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. For us, it means trusting in the catcher. Don't be afraid. Remember that you're the beloved child of God. He will be there with you when you make your long jump. Don't try to grab him. He will grab you. Just stretch out your arms and hands and trust, trust, trust. Look at Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. And I just think that's such a good, letting go of the trapeze, flying through the air, arms outstretched, trusting that the Lord's going to catch you, that he's going to make your path straight, that he's going to direct your paths.